So Venus and Mercury retrograde. I have Giantina back here with me today joining us for this video. I do want to talk about this month for a second, but I have a couple other things I want to talk about. Everybody dreads those retrograde planets. I get it. You know, we're so used to Mercury being retrograde because that happens 3 times a year, and then we have the shadow period and everything else. But this is one of those years where we have Venus going retrograde too. And I know a lot of people fear that, but one of the most important things to understand about astrology, and I know people that don't really, have never really studied astrology, you know, in depth, they just think it has to do with the sun sign and maybe the moon sign and whatever. But everything really depends on where it hits your chart. So there's 12 houses in the zodiac. So that's why I would always do predictions based on rising signs. So when Venus is going retrograde, a lot of times people worry that, oh, there's somebody, some love relationship from my past coming back, and I'm so totally not interested in that. And that's not always the case. I mean, that can happen, but Venus is also love, beauty, creativity, all that kind of stuff. So it could very well be a creative endeavor that you had thought about or started in the past and stopped, coming back. It could be, you know, redoing something in the home with your physical appearance. And there's always like, oh, don't do beauty treatments during Venus retrograde. It really depends on your particular chart and what sign Venus is in, whether or not that's going to be positive or negative. And of course, always follow your own intuition. So 12ns.com contacted me a while ago, as you guys know, and told me to tell you guys that you can get some money off astrology PDFs. If you're interested, if you use my coupon code, which is 20 off Joanna. So you would want to go to 12ns.com/PDFs and then put in 20 off Joanna, and then you can get discounts on astrology stuff. So I have not been doing readings, and I've gotten a lot of emails lately and text messages from people being like, are you doing readings? When are you doing readings? I don't know. I just don't, I follow the stars and my intuition, and I just don't feel like doing readings right now because that's just the way I feel. But I may in the future, I may not. I haven't made a decision. But what I am doing is I'm offering money off my astrology oracle cards that I created. And here they are. They're on my website, joannagerardpsychic.com. So you can get money off. This is for a limited time. People have been buying these because I'm not doing readings. So, and I wrote a booklet in there to, you know, explain to everybody what everything means, some sample layouts, stuff like that. We do have all the houses, all the signs, all the planets, and the north node and the south node of the moon, which is what I want to talk about today, because I really did feel inspired to talk to you guys, because it's really important. And even though I'm not actively doing readings right now, I'm still, you know, astrologers, we are investigators and researchers, so that really never ends. I am always researching, I'm always investigating. And just to show you what my cards look like, you know, they're gold trim. I had these done gold. I like the color gold. And again, you got Jupiter, you got the 3rd house, you know, and there's that little book in there that explains what everything means. So it also kind of helps you learn astrology. I actually used astrology my whole life, even with readings. Like, everything with me was astrology based. Like, in my head, I think planetary wise. So I was never somebody that used tarot cards or anything like that. It was just, I would get feelings through astrology. And that's how it all began with me. I started off as an astrologer, and then things led and people hired me because of that. And then whatever, everything just went into what it went into. But I do want to talk about, I am a Western astrologer, but I do study the Eastern sidereal system, and I do find it to be accurate, particularly when we're talking about the nodes of the moon, the south node and the north node. Now, in the East, they're called Rahu and Ketu. Okay, so Rahu is the head of the dragon, and Ketu is the tail of the dragon. So what does that mean? Well, when we're born, we have Rahu and Ketu, north node and south node, in different places in our charts. And, you know, traditionally the thought is, hey, north node is what you're learning this time around, because astrologers believe in reincarnation for the most part. Whether or not that's true, only God knows. But that's the way we believe that we chose our path, our parents, our lessons, everything else. So, and then the South Node or Ketu is basically what you're coming from. What trait, what are you bringing over into this lifetime? You know, what lessons? I think we've all met people before and you're like, I feel like I've known you before. And whether or not it ends positively or negatively, they say there's some karmic connection with that person, and we're always kind of making up for karmic losses, gains, whatever. But that's the theory. So the reason why I look at the Eastern chart more predictive wise, because the North Node and the South Node, Rahu and Ketu, are always transiting. They're always moving. They are the lunar nodes, but they're so important predictive wise because we go through periods, 18-month periods in our life. Now in the West, they already changed signs, but in the East, which is what I'm looking at, they are changing signs in May for the next 18 months. So this is going to, depending on your sidereal chart, trigger changes. Think of it like a different theme in your life. So sometimes we go through really bad times because a lot of times what's going on is we have a malefic, like one of them hitting every single planet, especially if you have a stellium. You got 3 or more planets in one house. You know, I've seen that with people with the 4th house stellium, and it's just like trouble, 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 trouble for years. And you think it's never going to end, but it does, because the planets are always changing. And just like when we go through good times, that's why it's always important to stay humble and not hurt other people, because when we go through those good times, that's beautiful. But guess what? We all have malefics in our chart, and they're all going to eventually hit us at different times. So we have to stay humble with everything. So what's important about what's coming up in May here? Rahu is considered the head of the dragon. So if you think about just a head with no body, it's insatiable, right? Rahu is into money, success, fame, more, insatiable. Ketu, the South Node of the moon, is where we consider our spirituality, but it also has to do with losses. So wherever Ketu is transiting, you're going to see loss. And I don't mean this necessarily in a negative way. You know, astrology is extremely mathematical, and that's one of the most important things for people to understand. This is not just, oh, just throw it up in the air. And that if you're intuitive and an astrologer, that's beautiful. But you have to be a little bit analytical to be an astrologer, and intuitive to really kind of figure it out and interpret it well. So the South Node is where we're losing something. So if I see the K2, South Node, transiting somebody's 10th house, odds are there's going to be some big changes in the career, because that's the 10th house, okay? If it's transiting the 11th house, changes in friendships, groups, and organizations. Hey, not everybody's meant to be in our lives forever. K2 in the 1st house, who you are, what you value. You know, where Rahu is so like, I just want it all. Ketu is the tail of the dragon, so it has no head. It's just the tail. So it's kind of like mindless. Like, what am I doing? Who am I? You know, who I was yesterday is not who I am today. But Ketu is teaching us to let go. Where, you know, Rahu, very heavy Rahu dominant people, you know, have a hard time with Ketu, because they're like all about making stuff happen and more, where the K2 person is just a little bit more naturally kind of introverted and spiritual in a way that they don't have that drive. You know, Rahu is ambition. It's the head of the dragon. K2 is the tail. So whatever's been going on in your life, just know, and you can always feel a slight change before it happens. Just like when the moon goes full or whatever, you can feel it a couple days before. I know you guys can feel it. I can feel it. You know, you get a little more nervous. You're just a little more on edge. Same thing with the lunar nodes. You can feel this change coming in. Probably, I'm just going to make a guess, if we're going in May, and probably within, you know, a month before then, we're going to start to feel just like, you know, Mercury retrograde, we can feel its shadow. You feel the shadow. Nothing is that cut and dry. So our lives are going to be changing. There is a new theme coming on. You know, astrology is so much about lessons. So we're learning lessons. And it cracks me up that people are like, oh, astrology is fake, and, you know, God, this and that. Well, you guys, God created the stars in the sky. So like you can still believe in God and believe in astrology and use it as a tool to kind of navigate your life too. So, but that usually comes from people that know nothing about astrology. They just literally, all they know is sun signs. And you're like, this doesn't make sense. So there's so much to it. You know what I mean? There's so much to it, but just know that this is coming up. But most importantly, I do want to promote these because they are on sale. People are buying them because I'm not doing readings. I'm just not. I don't know when or if I'll be doing them again. It just really depends on my moods, really, honestly. So, but they are on sale. And of course, you know, I don't mind helping you guys with kind of interpreting those too, because, you know, it's just, even if you're just into it for the entertainment value, that's totally fine too. Or if you just like astrology, they are pretty. Like I said, they got the gold plate. I did that on purpose, you know, because I wanted them to kind of be a little bit like, a little whisper of glamour in those cards, you know, with the gold. But that's what's going on. I can't get my clicky thing to work, so I'm doing this manually. But these are on sale. Make sure you guys are aware that there are changes coming in. We are in those retrograde periods. It's going to be okay. It is a good time to always reflect, you know, and if you're in a relationship and you had issues in the past, sometimes Venus retrograde can kind of bring those back up again. So you gotta, it's an opportunity to work on making things better, you know. Same with Mercury. With Mercury's retrograde, it's like, where did I go wrong with this? Clean out your house. It's spring coming up, you know. You want a fresh start with everything anyways. But to me, more importantly than retrograde is those nodes of the moon, because they are just so predictive as far as where we're going and what we're learning and who is coming in and out of our lives. It's all part of a bigger plan, and the astrologer's goal is to try to interpret it as well as they can. The stars, the sky, the planets. So thanks so much, you guys. Check out my cards on there. I'm giving $10 off, and that's it. So have a good day. Thanks. Bye.